"There's a drug in your drink, sir," the janitor whispered. Then the billionaire exposed his fiancée. The chandelier sparkled like 1,000 frozen stars. The grand ballroom of the Astoria Regal Hotel was dressed in gold and silver. Music floated through the air. Glasses clinked, and laughter from men in suits and women in gowns bounced off the marble walls. It was a night for the powerful, the beautiful, the rich. But beneath all the glitter, behind the champagne smiles and whispered toasts, something darker stirred. And it began with a whisper. "There's a drug in your drink, sir." The voice came soft, low, and trembling. It didn't belong in that room. It didn't belong anywhere near the polished shoes and designer perfume. But it cut through the noise like a knife. Lucas Hartford, the billionaire CEO of Hartford Global Industries, lowered the wine glass halfway to his lips. His brow creased. He turned slowly to see the speaker. It was a girl, young, maybe early 20s. Brown skin, tied back hair, a uniform that told the world she wasn't supposed to speak. She was a server. No jewelry. No family name. No place at his table. Her eyes, wide and filled with fear, locked with his. "Excuse me," Lucas said, quiet but sharp. "I shouldn't be saying anything," she stammered. "But that wine, it's not safe. Please, don't drink it." At that moment, the room kept spinning. The music kept playing. But for Lucas, time stopped. 2 hours earlier, Elena Cruz was tired. Her shoes pinched her toes, and her back screamed from carrying plates through the maze of round tables. The hotel manager had warned her to stay quiet, smile wide, and don't spill a damn thing. Tonight was important. It was the engagement party of the city's golden couple, Lucas Hartford and Vanessa Rain. Elena didn't care much about the elite. She only cared about tips. Still, she noticed everything. That's how she survived in this world. She noticed how Vanessa smiled with her lips, but never her eyes. She noticed how Lucas, the handsome billionaire, scanned the room like he didn't trust anyone. And she noticed something strange in the hallway outside the kitchen, just after the guests began to arrive. An old janitor, hunched and forgotten in the shadows, had been sweeping when he stopped her. "Miss," he had whispered, holding out his hand. In his wrinkled palm was a tiny glass vial, almost empty. "I found this behind the prep counter," he said. "Drop." I saw the tall woman, your boss's fiancée, pass something to bartender just before he poured the wine. "Be careful. I've cleaned too many floors after secrets like this." Elena froze. "Are you saying?" "I've seen this before. Rich people don't fight fair." She should have walked away. Should have minded her business. But then she saw it. The bartender handing the freshly poured red wine to one of the waiters, who then placed it gently on Lucas Hartford's table. That's when Elena made a decision that would change her life. Back in the ballroom, Lucas's eyes remained on Elena. "Tell me what you said again," he murmured. "I saw someone slip something into your wine. Please don't drink it. Please," she begged, voice low, heart racing. Vanessa, seated across the table, turned slowly. "What is this?" she asked, a cold smile curling at her lips. "A joke." Elena shrank back. The lights suddenly felt hotter. Guests nearby had stopped chatting. Heads were turning. Lucas remained still. His hand was still on the glass, just inches from his mouth. Vanessa stood. "Security," she called sweetly. "We have a disturbance." Elena said, voice breaking. "I just didn't want him to get hurt." Lucas raised a hand. "Wait." The two guards paused. He looked back at the girl in the uniform, her eyes red with panic, and then to Vanessa, now standing beside him, her hand gripping the back of his chair a little too tightly. "What's your name?" he asked Elena. Elena Cruz." Lucas stood up. All 6 feet 2 inches of him towered over the small server. "Take me to where it happened," he said. Vanessa gasped. "You can't be serious." He turned to her calmly. "I am." They stepped into the back hallway. Harsh fluorescent light replaced the ballroom glow. "This is where he gave me the wine," Elena said. "But before that, I saw the janitor. He found this." She reached into her pocket and pulled out the small vial the janitor had handed her. Lucas took it, inspected it. He didn't say a word. Then he pulled out his phone and sent a quiet message. Back in the ballroom, Vanessa returned to her seat, flashing a fake smile to her guests. But her hands were shaking. 10 minutes later, a private security officer approached Lucas in a side room. He handed him a printed sheet. Lucas scanned the report. One word stood out: diazepam, a heavy sedative. He placed the paper down, and slowly his expression changed. It wasn't shock. It wasn't anger. It was realization. That night, Elena sat alone in the back corner of the kitchen. She expected to be fired, or worse. She held back tears. She had just risked everything for a stranger. Miss Cruz. She looked up. Lucas stood in front of her, holding 2 mugs of coffee. "You were right," he said. "The drink was drugged." Her heart stopped. I thought maybe you wouldn't believe me," she whispered. "I almost didn't, but you were brave." He sat beside her. For a moment, there was silence between them. "Why did you do it?" he asked. Elena looked down at her chipped nails. "Because I've seen what poison can do. My dad was slipped something once, by someone he trusted. I didn't want to watch another man go through that. Not if I could stop it." Lucas nodded slowly. Then, softly, he said, "You might have just saved my life." She looked at him, eyes wide, surprised, and for the first time in years, Lucas Hartford smiled, like stories where one brave voice changes everything. Then hit that like button and subscribe to follow the journey of Elena and Lucas as their worlds crash, twist, and rise together in ways they never imagined. The silence inside the limousine was colder than the December air outside. Lucas Hartford sat with his hands folded tightly, eyes fixed on the glass vial resting on the seat beside him. The lab report confirmed it: diazepam, a heavy sedative, strong enough to knock a grown man out cold. He turned his gaze to the blurred city lights flashing past the tinted windows. His mind wasn't quiet. It raced, not with fear, but with something deeper: betrayal. Vanessa, the woman he was going to marry, the one he had shared his secrets with, the one who had just tried to drug him in front of hundreds of people at their engagement celebration. And the only reason he was still conscious was her, that waitress, Elena Cruz, a nobody, yet now the most important somebody in his life. Hours earlier, the ballroom emptied quickly after Lucas made a quiet but firm announcement that the engagement dinner was being cut short due to a minor health emergency. No one dared to press him further, not when he wore that unreadable look on his face, the one people in boardrooms feared. Vanessa tried to follow him into the private wing of the hotel. He stopped her with a single glance. "We'll talk soon," he said coldly. "But soon," he repeated, his voice final. And with that, she was escorted out. Lucas retreated to his suite on the top floor of the hotel. It was sleek, high above Manhattan, filled with designer furniture and cold glass walls. But he felt no comfort there now. He opened his laptop, pulled up internal server logs, hotel security footage, even surveillance access from his private team stationed discreetly at the event. He wasn't just a CEO. He was a man who trusted no one, so he always came prepared. And sure enough, there she was, Vanessa Rain, caught on camera in the hotel's back corridor, whispering something to the bartender, passing him something discreetly. The vial. Lucas leaned back, jaw clenched. The truth hit hard. This wasn't just personal. It was a setup. Meanwhile, Elena sat in the tiny break room of the hotel, eyes still puffy from tears. She had been told by security to wait until Mr. Hartford made a decision about her fate. She thought for sure she'd be fired, or worse, blacklisted from ever working at a luxury venue again. She didn't know that Lucas was watching the camera footage again, watching her hesitate, watching her make the impossible decision to step forward and stop him, to risk her life for his. By midnight, Lucas summoned her to his suite. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding, and Elena stepped out, eyes wide. She'd never been so high up, figuratively or literally. A private guard opened the door for her. She walked in slowly. Lucas stood by the window, his back to her, city lights glowing behind his tall silhouette. He didn't turn around. "Sit." She obeyed. "You were right," He finally said, "There was diazepam in the wine, enough to sedate an elephant." Her hands gripped her skirt tightly. I didn't want to believe it, but when the janitor told me and I saw her hand something off, I couldn't stay quiet. Lucas turned, eyes locked on her. "Why? You didn't know me. You had everything to lose. Why did you do it?" Elena swallowed. "Because my father died that way." He raised an eyebrow. He was working as a taxi driver. Someone gave him water, laced with pills to rob him. He crashed the car. They said he never had a chance. Since then, I know the signs. I know that look in someone's eyes when they've already made a choice to hurt another person. Lucas walked closer. "And you saw that in Vanessa?" "She never looked at you with warmth, only calculation. I noticed small things." He nodded, surprisingly quiet. Then he reached into a drawer and pulled out a thick folder. "I've had my suspicions," he said, "but tonight gave me proof." He handed her the folder. Elena opened it with trembling hands. Emails, texts, photos. Vanessa meeting with Damien Faulkner, Lucas's fiercest business rival. Damien had been trying to buy out Hartford Global Industries for years. Vanessa and Damien were lovers and partners in crime. "She wanted access to my private files," Lucas said. "The sedative would have knocked me out just long enough for her to sneak into my penthouse, steal what she needed, and frame me for insider trading." Elena gasped. "She was going to ruin you." "She almost did," he replied, "but you stopped her." The next morning, the world hadn't heard a word yet. Lucas hadn't gone public. He wanted more proof, more than one camera angle, more than one email chain. He sent a silent command to his tech team. Trace everything she touched in the last 72 hours. But Elena? He asked her to stay. He invited her to breakfast. An awkward affair at first, but slowly something changed. They laughed. Not forced, not polite, real. "You know you're the only person who's looked me in the eye and told me the truth in a long time?" Lucas asked. Elena blushed. "Most people," he continued, "are scared of me. You weren't." "I was terrified," she admitted with a laugh. "But truth is more important than fear." He studied her for a long moment. "I want to offer you something." She looked up. "I need a new executive assistant. Someone with instincts. Someone who pays attention to the little things. You could work at my office. Good pay. A fresh start." She blinked. "But I'm just a server." "No," Lucas said. "You're a lifesaver." Later that day, Elena returned to her small apartment in Queens. It was nothing like the suite she'd just left. Cracked tiles, a flickering hallway light, the smell of old spaghetti. But her heart was full. She had done the right thing. And she'd been seen not just by anyone, but by Lucas Hartford himself. Vanessa, on the other hand, was unraveling. In her luxury condo, she paced the marble floor barefoot, rage in her eyes. Lucas hadn't called, hadn't messaged. The press had begun whispering that the engagement was postponed. She screamed and threw a glass against the wall. "He's ruining everything." She picked up her phone, texted Damien. "We need to act now, before he exposes us both." That night, Lucas sat at his desk, staring at a blank message to the press. He could bury her career, ruin her reputation. But revenge wasn't enough anymore. He looked at Elena's name in his phone, hovered his thumb over the call button. Instead, he hit record on a private audio message. To his legal team, he said only this: "I want everything Vanessa Rain has touched traced, tracked, and frozen. I'll go public once we have every last receipt." He leaned back and whispered to himself, "She tried to drug me to take my empire. But she didn't know this empire doesn't fall. It fights." 2 days after the ruined engagement party, the city woke up to chaos. The headlines across major news outlets read, "Billionaire breaks off engagement amid drugging scandal. Lucas Hartford saved by waitress during poison plot. Vanessa Rain disappears after shocking accusations. The Hartford PR team released a single, icy statement. Mr. Lucas Hartford confirms the termination of his engagement to Ms. Vanessa Rain. No further comments at this time." But Lucas had no intention of staying silent forever. That evening, he stepped onto the stage at the Manhattan Global Tech Forum, a previously scheduled event he had debated canceling. Cameras flashed wildly. Reporters buzzed. Everyone expected him to deny the allegations or dodge the scandal. But he didn't. Trust is the foundation of all things, Lucas said, standing in a fitted black suit with his voice calm, sharp. Business, family, love. When that trust is broken, we either rebuild stronger or walk away from what was never real. The crowd fell silent. He continued, 2 nights ago, I was nearly drugged at my own engagement celebration. A woman with no reason to care, no stake in my empire, chose to speak up. She put her job, her reputation, and her safety on the line to warn me. Her name is Elena Cruz. Gasps echoed. Camera shutters fired. She saved my life. He didn't mention Vanessa's name. He didn't have to. The media went into a frenzy. Vanessa retaliated online within hours. She posted a carefully worded letter blaming Lucas for their emotional distance, accusing him of being cold and unfaithful. She hinted he had started a relationship with a low-level hotel worker before their breakup. Attached to the post was a blurry photo. Elena exiting Lucas's building in casual clothes. The backlash was immediate. On social media, Elena was dragged. Gold digger, homewrecker, liar. Commenters attacked her appearance, her past, even her name. She cried in silence, curled up on the floor of her tiny apartment, the glow from her phone screen casting shadows on the wall. I should have kept my mouth shut, she whispered, tears rolling down her cheeks. I should have stayed invisible. Her phone buzzed. A message from Lucas. Don't read anything. Rooftop, 8 p.m. She went, heart pounding. The rooftop of the Hartford building was quiet, dressed in the golden hue of a city sunset. Lucas stood waiting, dressed in jeans and a black hoodie. You're not hiding, he said. I wanted to, but you texted. He handed her a warm mug of tea. I'm sorry this happened to you. You don't deserve it. I didn't do anything wrong, she said softly, but it feels like I'm paying the price. Lucas nodded slowly, which is why I've decided to end this. Tomorrow, I'm holding a press conference. I'm going to tell the full story, the drug, the evidence, and how you saved me. Her eyes widened. But that will make you a target too. He met her gaze. I don't care anymore. If they're going to talk, let them talk about the truth. The next morning, the press gathered outside the Hartford corporate headquarters. Lucas walked out with confidence, stopping at the podium with Elena standing beside him. I owe the public clarity, he began. Vanessa Rain attempted to drug me at our engagement dinner. I have video proof, lab reports, and intercepted communications with my business rival, Damian Faulkner. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. But the reason I'm standing here today is because a woman named Elena Cruz, who was working that night, stepped forward. She saw the danger and warned me. Without her courage, I could have lost more than just my company. A reporter shouted, Are you and Miss Cruz in a relationship? Lucas looked to Elena, who blushed but didn't back away. We are building something, but first we're rebuilding trust, in truth, in decency, and in what people like Elena represent. The press went wild. That night, the tide turned. Hashtag Thank You Elena began trending. Journalists rewrote their stories. Public sympathy shifted. Vanessa, now cornered by legal notices and public scorn, disappeared from the media radar. Lucas, meanwhile, made good on his offer. Elena was brought on board as his new executive assistant, not in secret, but with a public announcement and photo of them shaking hands in the office lobby. She wore a new blazer. He wore the same faint smile she remembered from that night. Her first day was rocky. She spilled coffee on a contract and once got lost on the 42nd floor. But Lucas never got angry. He only said, You'll find your way. Over weeks, they built something real. Trust, laughter, even late-night conversations over Thai food and business plans. He opened up, told her about his lonely childhood, how he'd grown up with bodyguards but no real friends, how his mother died young and left a scar he'd never fully healed. She shared her own stories about growing up with 3 siblings and no money, about her dreams of becoming a teacher, and how life just didn't let it happen. One evening, as they watched the city lights blink below from his penthouse balcony, Lucas looked at her and said, "You remind me that there's still good in this world." Elena blinked back tears. "You remind me that not all rich men are monsters." He chuckled. Progress. But Vanessa wasn't done. One final social media post from her tribe to claim Lucas was brainwashed by a manipulative girl who wanted his money. Elena saw it, and for the first time, she didn't cry. She simply stood beside Lucas during a charity gala and whispered, "Let them talk." He squeezed her hand. "Talk is cheap," he said. "But love? That's earned." Jake Carter stood frozen on the stage, the soft coos of baby Grace barely audible over the sound of his own heartbeat. The guests, mostly dressed in designer suits and cocktail dresses, watched him with mixes of surprise and confusion. Some held champagne glasses midair. Others whispered to each other. But all Jake could see was Evie, standing tall, confident, holding Grace with one arm and her other hand stretched toward him, waiting. He took a step forward, then another. The noise in the room faded into silence as he reached her. When he took her hand, she smiled softly and whispered, "Thank you for coming." Jake swallowed hard, blinking back emotion. "I didn't know what to expect." Evie chuckled gently. "Neither did I." After the ceremony, the crowd thinned. People gathered in circles, sipping drinks, talking business, while a live string quartet played soft music from the corner. Jake stood near a tall window overlooking the city. The skyline twinkled in the dusk like it always did. Like a living thing, never quiet, never still. Evie approached, 2 champagne flutes in her hand. "Apple cider for you," she said, handing him one. Jake grinned. "Thanks. You remembered." Hard to forget a man who delivered your baby in a subway tunnel. He chuckled. "You make it sound like I'm some kind of superhero." She tilted her head. "Maybe you are." They clinked glasses. Silence fell between them. Not awkward, just full. "I didn't know what to wear," Jake admitted after a moment, tugging at his collar. "You look perfect," she said without hesitation. He looked at her, really looked, and she didn't look like the tech mogul from the magazines. Not anymore. She looked grounded, real. "I still don't understand why you picked me," Jake said, "to be Grace's godfather." Evie turned toward the window. "Because you're the only person who's ever seen me for who I am. Not the heiress. Not the CEO. Just Evie." She took a slow breath. "And because I trust you with her life." Jake didn't know what to say, so he just nodded. "I didn't think I'd ever want a family," she continued. "But that night on the subway, everything changed. Not just because of Grace, but because of you. You made me believe there's still good people in this world. People who don't want anything from me." He met her eyes. "I don't. I know." Her gaze dropped. "But I want something from you." Jake blinked. "What?" Before she could answer, a voice called out, "Evelyn." They both turned. A man in a crisp navy suit stood nearby, his smile polite but tight. Jake recognized him from the news. Oliver Vance, CEO of one of the biggest investment firms in New York, and Evie's ex-fiancé. "Oliver," Evie said coolly, "I was expecting you." "I wouldn't miss this," he replied, stepping closer. He looked Jake up and down. "And this must be the subway hero." Jake gave a half nod. "Just Jake." Oliver's eyes narrowed. "Right." There was tension in the air now, sharp and sudden. Oliver turned back to Evie. "Can we speak privately?" Evie glanced at Jake, then back at Oliver. "If it's about the company, schedule it with my office." "It's personal," Oliver pressed. "I'm with someone," she said flatly. Jake blinked. Oliver scoffed. "Him? Evelyn, be serious." Evie stepped forward. "I'm very serious." Oliver's jaw clenched. "He's not your future. He's your escape." Jake cleared his throat. "Look, man, I didn't come here to start anything." Oliver raised an eyebrow. "You don't belong in this world. You know that, right?" Jake stepped back. "Yeah, I do." Evie's voice hardened. "Oliver, if you don't leave now, I'll have security escort you. For a second, it looked like Oliver would push back, but then he forced a smile and turned away. I'll see you in court, he muttered before disappearing into the crowd. Jake turned to Evie. What was that about? She exhaled slowly. He's fighting me for shares of my father's company. Says I'm mentally unstable and unfit to lead because I ran during the IPO. Jake stared at her. Is that true? Evie nodded. I did run, but not because I'm unstable. I ran because I needed to remember who I was without all of this. She motioned around the room. I found myself in the dark, she added quietly, in the grime of that subway, with you, after the party. She invited him back to her penthouse. Lily was asleep in the guest room. Grace was in her crib. Jake stood in the kitchen as Evie poured tea. She placed a cup in front of him, then sat down. There was something different in the air now. Intimate, honest, maybe even fragile. I didn't plan for this, she said, looking into her cup. For what? You. Us. Jake shifted. Evie, we come from different worlds. I know. I live paycheck to paycheck. You fly private. She smiled sadly. You think I care about that? Jake didn't answer. Then she stood and walked to the living room shelf. She picked up a small velvet box and came back. Before I ran, Oliver gave me this, she said, opening it. Inside was a massive diamond ring. I was supposed to announce our engagement at the gala. Jake looked at the ring, then at her. But something in my gut told me to run, she said, and now I know why. She closed the box and set it down. I wasn't in love with him. I was in love with the idea of escaping my loneliness. She stepped closer. Jake, I'm not asking you for a perfect life. I'm just asking you not to walk away again. Jake stared at her. I don't have much to offer you, he said. Just a good heart, and a little girl who likes pancakes too much. Evie smiled through tears. That's everything I want. Then Lily walked in, rubbing her eyes. She saw Evie and smiled. Mommy, Evie? Jake froze. Evie knelt. Yes, sweetie. Can we stay here forever? Evie looked up at Jake. His heart cracked wide open. He dropped to his knees, pulled both of them into his arms, and whispered, We already are. That night, the city outside didn't matter. The cameras, the boardrooms, the subway tunnels, none of it mattered. All that mattered was this. A man who thought he was broken. A woman who thought she was lost. And the two little girls who brought them together. Because sometimes the greatest miracles don't happen in hospitals. They happen on the subway, in the dark, when a stranger reaches out his hand, and the world changes forever.